Hi everyone, a big warm welcome to today's altcoin Bible. Just a reminder, the full version, if you're a newsletter subscriber, today I dive into the altcoin market where I think it sits and Bitcoin's position, which looks a little bit tenuous. We've also been thinking over the last few weeks that Bitcoin was due for a correction based on a few factors like meme coin mania and running into a very serious resistance level, not being able to crack it. So that's been just such a plus for myself, the masterminds, and anyone who's been watching some of my content lately. The power to sort of recognize that there's a very clear overhead invalidation level that if we cross it and close above it, then yeah, you're happy days, you can get really aggressive again. But as we're underneath it and running into it and you see the exuberance around, it's such a good spot to just check yourself and go against the grain sometimes, be a bit of contrarian. You can literally take some chips off the table, have bids laid in lower. You can look at Bitcoin as your stable coin and then you go through the Bitcoin pairs into the altcoins you want. But we just know that until we've crossed that 100K threshold, and if Bitcoin sees some of that volatility, underneath it back to the downside, altcoins are going to feel it extra hard. Although, having said that, there is a bit of robustness around some of the altcoins here, but as Bitcoin has that volatility, it's having that pullback down to 90,000, maybe even mid 80s, potentially low 80s. Again, altcoins are going to feel that in the short term. But when Bitcoin finishes this little phase, finds that basing, those altcoins that have shown that relative strength, and there are a couple I'm going to show you today, are going to do really, really well. So just starting on that note, everything's sort of predicated on Bitcoin here finding a floor, and it's messing with a few altcoin entries last night and this morning. But just broadly, if Bitcoin holds that position above that 92,000 here and just goes range bound, a lot of these alt setups have just, this little move back even this morning has allowed you to fill your orders, and now we hopefully can bounce higher. But the TA is really interesting on some of these, and I've been following AI cryptos a little bit of late, seeing a bit of strength popping back around them, and none more so than INJ. And INJ is about to, according to my chart, is about to close the lid on this whole area down here, and it's on the daily closing above that range high, which is fairly obvious to me. It looks really, really nice. And when cryptos do this, you're essentially creating a new higher high, moving out of this big range area. The market's telling you it wants higher, and in the interim, I think a 15 to 20% move into this volume pocket is really probable. It's got a lot of room on the daily RSI to get into the power zone and move from there. There is a nice sort of breakdown level over here, which I think it could run to about 36, 37. But just the relative strength of INJ, the higher highs, the higher lows, this explosion from that lower area could be a sign of things to come for some of the AI tokens. But I would play on a case-by-case basis. You can also watch the Bitcoin pairs for some of that strength earlier. I know INJ has been improving, stacks near, a few others have been just showing their position. Same with SUI of late as well. So yeah, that's my play there for INJ. So as long as we can get a couple of daily closes in this region here, I think we're going up there, and then we'll have to see how high it can go from there. But I suspect a bit of resistance to come in underneath that, flip that again, and then it's off to new all-time highs. So if we do get a close underneath this level, underneath 30, then you can start to look for maybe retests of this kind of level back here before going higher. But I do think the trend just broadly here on INJ is really good. The RSI would want to stay elevated. Don't want to see it come back to the 50 here, but everything's really well positioned for a slight pullback and then higher. Again, you want to be watching for the cryptos that are giving you that strength. You want to lean into that. You don't want to be just, knife catching everything as they're just being bled and being dumped on. That's what, SUI was such a powerful mover earlier on. You see the strength. And some other things are moving, Solana and whatnot. But if you're just seeing the strength in the cryptos and you go, well, this looks fantastic, this is the chart, why aren't I focused on it? It's in my wheelhouse. I want to have layer 1 or layer 2 AI exposure, whatever you're looking at. Whatever is strong, lean into it. If you're looking to accumulate a position or you're doing short-term dynamic movements and trading, momentum brings momentum. It just happens, and strength breeds strength. So keep that in mind. But INJ right now is my cherry ripe. Amid a sea of other coins that look literally on the almost spectrum. There's a lot of coins here that look absolute ready to run hard, but they haven't done the closes yet. They haven't done the hard work. They're just on the edge. And when they're just on the edge, you can just tell that they're just a bit jittery around Bitcoin. But as I was saying, the altcoin robustness via Bitcoin dominance falling down is giving it some room. Now, I'm looking at SUI here. SUI is one of the best recoverers from that dip we had overnight. Now, SUI, fantastic if you filled some stink bids down at $3 or even lower. Congratulations on that. Also had some really nice levels hit against Bitcoin. Now, SUI essentially has reset a lot of that speculation and FOMO that it had running up to the $4 level just of late. And it's so far looking really, really nice that was the low, and it's trying to crack the downtrend, but it's not quite there yet. So this is a one to watch. Inverse head and shoulders looks to my eye developing there, but it's trying to come down there to blast up. So if it can close above this kind of level at $3, I'm going to say $3.50 even to be safe. But if it gets on this Fibonacci 0.236. It's broken the downtrend. It's on the 10, it's on the 20, it's above the, it's back above a lot of the shorter term moving averages, which you want to see. And it also is in a, macro uptrend. So really love that. Looks really fantastic against Bitcoin as well. Looks to be trying to recover some of its strength that it had. Also, Cetus has been really strong as an ecosystem play. Been reading our newsletter, you'd see that's one of our top 5 low cap gems. That was showing enormous strength during just horrible Bitcoin volatility, choppiness over the last 24 hours. And it was just holding position, which just told me that the SUI ecosystem and SUI itself were seeing a lot of inflows of volume and a lot of interest. So SUI's been one of the strongest performers in the market, and you just have to constantly look at those all the time and have them in your watch list thinking, all right, well, there's a reason these are really strong. It's because there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of buyers that are willing to step in and buy the dip. Also trying to get back, this is on the 8 hour, of course, but just trying to get back above the 50 here, which I like. So 8 hour, just to give you a bit of an idea, I like to go to the 8 hour instead of going as far down as 4 hour, and it's not quite as high as the daily. It gives you a bit of nuance. So I really like it's in between the 8 hour session. So that's why I'm looking at it here, if you were wondering. So definitely one to watch. And you look, if SUI has its break here, I think $4 is on the cards, maybe even the $5 range. But then you can do your own evaluation on how high we go. If we fail here, I think SUI is probably still in a basing scenario. We'll go maybe back down to $3.10. I'd be very surprised if SUI drops beneath $3 just based on the so far the strength that we've seen. But again, that could very well be on the cards. We could be seeing that final move down to $2.80. If Bitcoin has the drive to 87, 85, 82, then wouldn't be surprised to see some of these cryptos have a bit of a, let's quote unquote, nuke to certain levels, but be bought up very, very quickly. So these dips are for buying, in my view, guys, because we know where we are in the cycle. This is a fleeting one of those corrections in a bull market. We're about to go. All right, my danger zone this week is so obvious to me. And I think I had it as my danger zone last week, that it was just kind of setting up, and it had an epic run up to where it is, up to 50 cents or 48. So, some of that, some of those rare air regions for Dogecoin, halfway to $1, absolutely crazy, on the back of a lot of the Doge stuff that's happening in the United States with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. So what I've been seeing though is when you have these almost, just complete vertical moves, you really want to see it contract and hold above a certain area. And when you're seeing that the price action is getting high, it's double peak, but then the momentum is just falling off an absolute cliff, like a rounded head keeps going lower, then I'm on high alert. And it can be one of the easiest sell or short setups that you'll ever see. It's trying to lose this very key ground in this trend line. It really wants to reclaim that 40 cent mark quick smart, and if it doesn't, I think she's closing beneath this trend line, and it's going to be a fair way down for it. Not all the way down back here. I mean, maybe it's back to the 0.786, maybe, but I don't think so. This is probably just the first correction in its larger macro uptrend, but it's going to be, it needs to cool off. It really, really does. I'd say aim for that 50 RSI level, maybe the 0.382. It's going to come down and hit this 20 SMA here, so it could find support at 0.36 and then bounce back. Could do it, but it could really unwind here and go down to 30 cents or maybe 29. That seems about right at that 0.5 level, and then it bases and probably comes out of it. So this is just the cycles within cycles, guys. If you're savvy around it, you can kind of notice some of these signs, and when FOMO kicks in and meme coin mania and also something like this with Dogecoin, when you're just seeing the very clear bearish divergence momentum falling away and price action going higher, there's a fairly strong likelihood that this is going to struggle to hold its position in its uptrend, and it needs to dip a bit lower for liquidity. It's not the end of the world. It just means it's going to give you better buy prices. And if you're savvy, you can, rotate some of your portfolio out of some of these coins in question and hedge some risk, and then just stack the buy orders lower, because you're thinking to yourself, well, the risk reward here, it's very, very clear to me. If it cracks back above let's say 45, 46, starts closing in that kind of region, then you can get a little bit aggressive again, but you'd want to see the momentum kick up again. You don't want to just continue to see these like a triple peak bearish divergence. So there's a very real possibility that we have another run up to that 55 level, but momentum is continuously moving down, which is a very bad sign. Again, I think this is just a danger zone setup. It's very perfectly obvious to me, and I wanted to share it with everyone here. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, guys. Again, if you're not a newsletter subscriber and want to see the full version of this episode where I do dive into the broader bull market, where I see altcoins and everything sits, it's well worth it every single month to have that. I'll be releasing the newsletter signals as well tomorrow. That's our top 10 portfolio buy and sell levels as well, which we do on the last Thursday of every month. And Joe will release his weightings for the 3 risk profiles: low, medium, and high risk investors. He'll give you the pie charts of the weightings that he's personally looking at on how much you should be spread, your diversification of your capital in the market currently across the different crypto niches. And you can just identify what type of investor you are and go, well, I'm on the right track here, or maybe I need to have some exposure to these type of areas. Am I managing enough risk here? It can be very, very useful, and Joe explains every single section. He'll release that on Friday. We've started doing that and splitting some of these sections up, because it's quite big when you include it all together, and it could just get lost and you might get too much to read for you. We want to make the experience better as a subscriber. So if it's interesting to you, make sure to click the link below and sign up. Apart from that, please have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll catch up soon. See ya. Bye-bye.